Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we're going to continue learning about 2.1. Today we're going to focus more on sentence with the clauses. Let me try this. Here we have this. First is coordinate connectors. As you all know that connector is a component used to combine two or more clauses. In this case, we're going to focus on coordinate connectors. In this context, we have and, but, also, yet. It means that when we use coordinate connectors, we combine two main clauses. The clauses is an independent clause, it can stand alone. See this example. Tom is singing. Paul is dancing. We have a plus 1 and plus 2. Here we have n to connect plus a plus 1 and plus 2. And but also yet they have different meanings. So if we want to combine two clauses, make sure that the meanings fit the connectors. Okay. It's very simple. Okay, see this. A power failure occurred, the lamps went out. The lamps went out is the result of this. So it happens, This one we use so because it is cause and effect. This is the effect and this is the cause. So we use so. So the basic idea of this topic is to make sure that you understand the meaning of the connectors. After that, understanding the context of the two clauses being combined and make sure that the connector fits the clauses. See this example. The software should be used on a laptop computer, and this computer is laptop. So this is an additional information. Let's see this one. The rain clouds can be seen in the distance, but no has fallen. But no has fallen. See this. The rain clouds can be seen in the distance. So we have subject here. We have subject here. Let's say this, but no has fallen. We only have verb without subject. So it is incorrect because the formula of this is this. See? Coordinate connector here to combine clause A and clause B. So we have subject verb and subject verb. Okay. Well, you can do question 3 to 5. Okay, let's continue to skill 7. It's about adverb time and cross connectors correctly. Here, basically, we have this. So, if we put the connector in between, you just write it down right away. But if you use the clause that contains the connector in the beginning of the sentence, you have to put comma. Okay. The most challenging part of this topic is memorizing the connectors and also understanding the context of the sentence. Yeah, the adverb connector, and we have subject verb, subject verb. If we write down the adverb connector in the beginning of the sentence, we use comma. This is that simple. Okay, let's continue. So in this example, since the bank closes in less than an hour, the deposit needs to be paid immediately since that is the connector. We could put it the clause with the connector in the beginning of the sentence. That's why we put comma here. And this is the clause 2. That's why it is called. The break number 2, the backgrounds are thoroughly investigated before are admitted. We have that, but we don't have the subject. That is why it is in. Okay, let's continue to skill number 8. As similar, the previous one, but just with different types of connector. We have condition, contrast, manner, and place. You see this? It's just the same. There's other connector here. And subject, verb, subject, and verb. If we put ether connector at the beginning of the sentence, we use comma. It is quite simple. Yeah, that's in the example. It is number 1. It is impossible to run the program if we lack experience with structure. We put the connector in the middle of the sentences, so we do not need to put comma, and we have subject verb, and also we have subject verb. Number 2, the commandant left straightforward about the process, so just left the post anyway. We don't have connector here. So we should put connector here to make sentence correct. So it lacks connector, so it is. Even though it is subject verb, we have subject verb, but there is no connector. Okay, shall we continue? Okay, let's continue to the next skill. Skill 9. Skill 9. Use non-class connectors correctly. Use non-class connectors correctly. Here we have. A non-clause is a clause that functions as a noun. Because the non-clause is a noun, it is used in sentence as either object or subject. So remember, it is a clause. It means it contains subject and verb, but it acts as a noun. For example, I hear the subject, this is the verb. I know this is the object. When he will arrive, here we here is a subject. Will arrive here is, but this is called as a noun. That's why it is a noun clause as object. When I say I, it arrives. It is noun, and this is also a noun. So we use noun as a subject, and we can use noun also as an object. In this case, it's a word. We replaced it with a clause. We call it as noun clause. Let's see the second example. I'm concerned about when he will arrive. Here is the object of preposition about. There is an object. Just noun. Here the third example. When he will arrive is not important. This is the subject. Okay, the noun. But it is as a clause. Here it is subject. Will arrive is say so. This is the clause. Get it. Okay, let's see the formula here. Here. Say this. The formula, if we use the clause, the noun clause as an object, we use this. The subject, verb, and this is the object. We use the non-connector. For example, we use what? and also followed by subject and verb. In this case, it is non-clause. As
Peminjaman laptop kan
check.
Okay.
It is. But if we use a subject, we put this in the beginning of the sentence, but without another verb, because this is the without the subject, because this is called as a subject. So, for example, non-clause a subject here, non-connector, subject verb plus this is the verb of the sentence. The example is this one. I know what you did. This one is non-clause, and what you did was wrong. This is the non-clause. It's quite simple. Okay, let's continue. Okay, number one, when the season starts is determined by the weather. Yeah, when the season starts, it is subject. And its determined here is the so in this case, we use non-clause as subject. Buka. Number two, the manual, how the device should be built. The manual here is the subject. So supposedly it has to be the non-clause as object. But there is something missing here. We should use verb before the object or the non-clause. But in this case, we don't have the verb. So it is incorrect. Okay. Okay, there is also a modification of this. The connectors can act as a subject if the condition meets. So in this example, if the previous one we use a, what is it? We use subject after the connector. In this case, we can use the connector itself as the subject. For example, I do not know what is in the pot. What here is the connector. And in the same time, it is also the subject. We are concerned about who will do the work. Who here is the connector and the same time the subject. So we do not need to write down the subject anymore. The third, whoever is coming to the party must bring a gift. Whoever here is the subject and also the connector. So the difference is the difference between the skill and also the previous one. The previous one, we should write down the subject after the connector, but in this skill, we do not need to write down the subject anymore because the connector is considered as the subject. Okay. We have this, the connectors. So this, the formula here, we have non-clause here as the subject. So we do not need to write down the subject again. It's also here, we don't need to write down the subject anymore. Okay, let's continue to see the questions. See examples number 1 and 2. The game show contestant was able to respond to whether whatever was asked. Whatever here is the connector and the subject, and also followed by the satisfied. So this, you should find out which the best physics department, which is the subject or the connector, and we should write down the verb here, but there is no verb here, so it is incorrect. Okay, you can do the rest. Okay, let's continue. If it was non-clause, then we'll talk about adjective clause. Adjective clause is a clause that acts as an adjective. Adjective is a component that explains a noun. For example, we have pretty girl. This is a noun. And pretty here is an adjective. In this case, adjective explaining a noun. So we use this, in this case, is a word. But if we replace it with a clause, And explaining this is called as adjective clause. See this. The woman is filling the glass that she puts on the table. That she puts on the table here explains glass. In this case, glass is a noun. And it is adjective because it explains a noun. In this case, because it is it has subject and verb. It is a clause. A clause that acts as adjective is adjective clause. Okay. See the second example. The glass that she put on the table contains milk. That she put on the table here explain the glass. And also the glass here is a noun, and that she put on the table here is an adjective that explains a noun, and in this case it contains subject and verb, so there's a clause. Okay, let's continue to see the formula. Okay, see this. We have whom, which, that as the adjective connector here. Remember that the formula is like we use subject verb, adjective connector, we use subject again and verb again, so twice. Say this, I like the book, which the connector you recommend. So I the subject, verb like the subject, like the verb, you is the subject, and recommend it as the verb. And if you want to use this clause in the middle of the sentence, it's also okay. Say this, subject plus adjective connector plus subject again and verb, followed by verb. Verb here explaining this actually. The book which you recommend, this is the adjective clause, was interesting. The book here is explained by which we recommended. So here explaining this. This case is the adjective explaining the noun group. Remember that this is adjective connector that still needs subject. But there is also a variation of it, which used adjective connector, and in the same time it replaces the subject, or in other words, the connector acts as subject as well. The woman is filling the glass that is on the table. That here's the connector, and in the same time as a subject of the adjective clause. So it is the connector subject. The glass that is on the table contains here. That is here is subject and connector. It's similar to the previous one, the noun clause, but in this case, it's just act as a subject. That's the difference. Okay, let's continue. Say this. The formula is subject plus verb plus adjective connector that acts as a subject plus verb. So we do not need to write down the subject anymore. Also, again, if you want to put the adjective clause in the middle of the sentence, subject plus connector, X subject plus verb, so we do not need to write down the subject. Okay, let's continue to see the example. Okay, see this one. The ice cream that is served in the restaurant, it is the connector and the subject. Serve is as the verb. The restaurant has smooth. The ice cream here should connect with this. So ice cream is it, and with has it fits the verb. Yes, that is correct. Number two, the cars are trying to enter the free system are lined up for blocks. We have subject, we have verb, we don't have connector or subject in the adjective clause, so it is incorrect. So if you want to make it correct, the cars that are trying to enter the freeway system are lined up for blocks. That will make it correct. Okay, everybody. That's it. I think that is for all this topic. So basically, we focus on the sentence which has more than one clause. Two clauses here, and please do the practice because the next meeting it will be examination. And also, please do you the exercise in your book, and then after that, collect your book on my desk, and I will try to give a score, assess your works. And remember that the next week, the next meeting will be the assessment. It's a closed-book test, so get yourself ready. Okay, everybody, that's it for today. Have a good day. See ya.